I used to think distance made the heart grow fonder. Turns out it just gives them more room to forget you. I was stationed in Kandahar when the first email arrived. The sand was still in my boots, the air still thick with sweat and gun oil when I logged into our shared laptop back in the base communications center. It was one of those old Dell machines we all passed around just to check in with home. Slow as hell, but it worked. The subject line read, Bank Alert Large Withdrawal Notification. At first I didn't think much of it, maybe a bill, maybe an error. But when I opened it, my stomach dropped. $24,200 withdrawn from joint savings account. February 13th, 2021, I blinked at the screen. Checked the time zone. Double-checked the date. There was no mistake. The money was gone. Our money, gone. I stared at the name next to the transfer. Transfer to external. Verified beneficiary, M. Hayes. Her maiden name. She hadn't used it in years. I didn't know what to feel first: panic, confusion, betrayal. But there's something about war that changes how you react to betrayal. You stop reacting with anger, you go quiet, cold, like a sniper waiting for the wind to shift. That's exactly what I did. I clicked over to our Gmail. Search divorce, nothing. Search lawyer, nothing. Search new account, bingo. One message buried deep in the said folder. It was addressed to First National Bank. Hi, I would like to open a new account in my name only. I will be transferring funds from a joint account that I co-own with my husband. He is currently deployed overseas, and I would like this handled discreetly. Discreetly. That word hit harder than any bullet I'd ever dodged. She had planned this while I was sleeping in dust and waking up to rocket sirens. She was moving behind my back silently, efficiently. I closed the laptop, sat still for a full 5 minutes. One of the guys came in, asked if I was okay. I nodded. I wasn't. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because of the money, not even because of the betrayal, but because I started to realize just how long she'd been planning this. We met in college. She was studying finance. I was ROTC. She used to joke that if anything ever happened to me in the field, she'd have to figure out how to spend that sweet life insurance check. Hey, at the time it was funny. Now, it felt like a warning I should have listened to. I couldn't confront her. Not from Afghanistan. She'd deny it, spin it, make it emotional. That's how she was. She cried during arguments. She turned every question into an accusation. And me, I was too tired to play games. So I waited. But I started digging. Back-channel access to my bank login history showed she'd changed the passwords 3 days before the transfer. She'd used her work laptop. IP address, downtown Chicago. Her office. Our friend Brian worked in the same building. He was at our wedding, gave a toast about how we were proof that love and loyalty still exist in the modern age. Loyalty. I started thinking about Brian more. Checked Facebook. His page was public. Photos from a bar. Tagged with her. Then a concert. Same night I'd called her and she said she was working late on a pitch deck. Then a weekend in Aspen. She told me she was visiting her sick aunt. There was no aunt. I printed every email, every bank notification, every Facebook tag. I made a file. Thick, ugly, undeniable. I called it Operation Ghost. 2 months later, my deployment ended. I didn't tell her the date I was flying home. She thought I was coming back in June. I landed in April. Chicago was colder than I remembered. I stayed in a cheap airport motel the first night. Ate gas station food. Slept like a ghost. She didn't know I was back. No welcome home banners. No hugs, no fake tears. Perfect. The next morning, I walked into her bank. I asked for the branch manager. I slid the folder across the table. I want to file a fraud investigation, I said, and I want it in writing. She looked through the file. Her hand stiffened when she saw the email about discreet transfer. She nodded. We'll launch an internal review immediately. I already knew the outcome. I didn't care about the money anymore. It's about something else now. Something colder. I rented a car and parked it a block from our apartment. I waited till midnight. Lights were off. Her car was in the lot. But so was Brian's. I waited 2 more hours. At 2:13 a.m., I walked up, unlocked the door with the same key I'd had for 4 years. The living room looked different, brighter. His cologne was in the bathroom. I didn't take anything, didn't say anything, just walked into the kitchen and pulled one thing from the drawer. Our prenup. She never thought I'd remember it, but I did. And I planned to make her remember, too. I spent the next few days in a haze of quiet. Every time I saw her face, I felt a strange mix of disgust and pity. She didn't know I was watching her. She didn't know I had the upper hand now. She texted me once or twice, asking how I was doing. I responded with the usual polite responses. Nothing personal. She didn't deserve that anymore. But I wasn't here for the small talk. The emails came in. Her lawyer sent me one offering a settlement. $50,000, 0 cents, she suggested. An easy exit for her. I didn't respond immediately. I was waiting for her to make the next move. On the third day after my return, I went back to the bank. I had her in my sights. Everything was falling into place. She had no idea what was about to happen. But then, something unexpected came up. The branch manager told me that my request for a fraud investigation was under review. The problem? The account was joint, so legally. There was no real fraud if she had taken the money, especially since she was listed as the beneficiary. I was angry, but I kept my composure. I'd have to take matters into my own hands. I waited until Sunday. She was at a brunch with her friends, posting pictures on social media. A little too perfect, a little too happy. I couldn't stomach it. I didn't want to go to our apartment. Not yet, but I knew I had to. If I was going to do this, I needed to confront her in a place that was hers, where she'd feel the safest. The place where the lie had been most carefully crafted. When I arrived, the door was unlocked. I didn't knock. Her apartment was still neat. The same leather couch I'd picked out after our first big bonus came in. Same coffee table with the glass top. Nervously tugging at the sleeves of her cardigan. "Really?" I said, stepping forward. "Because you're the one who planned this early, right? The email, the bank withdrawal, the second account, the lawyer." She went quiet. "I saw everything," I said, my voice calm, low. "You thought you could just walk away with the money. You thought you could get away with everything." I wasn't yelling. I wasn't angry. I didn't need to be. She already knew how I felt. "You don't understand," she whispered, looking down. Her voice cracked. "It wasn't like that. You don't know how hard it was. I was alone for so long." "Stop." She flinched at my interruption. "You were never alone," I said, colder now. "You had him." "Brian!" Her eyes went wide, closer. I saw everything. The emails, the photos, the weekend trips, the lies. "James, I don't know what to say," she stammered. She started to back away, towards the hallway, trying to escape the confrontation she couldn't hide from anymore. "Please, please, I didn't mean for it to happen this way." I didn't let her retreat. I followed her, taking another step forward, blocking her path. "You thought you could steal from me, steal from us, and I'd never know?" I said, now inches from her. "You thought I wouldn't find out?" Her eyes filled with tears, but there was no real emotion in them, just fear. She was scared of being caught, not of what she had done. "You didn't even care," I continued, my voice now dangerously calm. "About us. About what we had. I was trying to protect myself," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I wasn't trying to hurt you, you were trying to protect yourself." I cut her off. "By destroying me. By throwing everything we built together into the trash?" She looked at the floor. A single tear rolled down her cheek. I didn't feel bad for her. Not anymore. She'd made her choice. She'd crossed the line. And I was done waiting for her to apologize. I walked toward the door. I didn't say another word to her. But before I left, I turned back. One last time. You'll never get away with it. You'll never get the money. You'll never get what you think you deserve. And then I walked out. As I walked out, I felt the weight of the decision pressing down on me. I had just stepped away from the edge of something I couldn't turn back from. But as I walked through the quiet street, the silence around me was suffocating. It was like the world was holding its breath, waiting for something to break, for the storm to hit. I knew that I could walk away. I could just let it go. But what would that make me? A fool. A man who'd been humiliated, betrayed, and would just sit in silence while she took what was mine? I wasn't that man anymore. I had to go back. Hours later, I found myself back at the bank. I had a plan. She wanted to play games? Fine. I'd play too. I sat across from the same bank manager, the one who had given me the disappointing news earlier. Tell me everything, I said. What do you need to do to freeze the accounts completely? He looked at me, his face filled with hesitation. It's tricky, he said. The joint nature of the account means, well, legally speaking, it's complicated. There are steps, processes we'd have to follow. I don't care about the steps, I snapped. Just tell me what I have to do to get the money back. If she thinks she can take it all without a fight, she's wrong. The manager didn't answer immediately. Instead, he scribbled something down on a form. You'll need to file a dispute, a full investigation, but you'll need her consent to start the process. Without it, there's no way to proceed. I slammed my palm against the desk, the sound sharp and jarring. She's not going to consent. You know that. I'm afraid you might be right, sir. This is a process that requires both parties. And I stared at him, trying to keep my cool. The last thing I needed was to lose my patience now. The storm had already started. I just needed to control it. Then we'll do it the hard way, I muttered under my breath. The following week felt like an eternity. I spent my time gathering everything, bank statements, transaction logs, emails, and even photos. I made sure I had every shred of evidence I needed. The lawyer's office was quiet when I walked in. The smell of stale coffee filled the air, mixing with the scent of paper and ink. I handed over the file I'd prepared. I want you to freeze her assets. I want everything locked down. The lawyer skimmed through the file. He looked up at me. Are you sure about this? If we go through with this, there's no turning back. I leaned back in my chair, my hands clasped together. She took everything I worked for. I'm not letting her get away with it. The lawyer nodded. I'll make the call, but be prepared. This will get ugly. 2 days later, I received an email. It was from her, Emily. I opened it with a deep breath, unsure of what to expect. The subject line read, "We need to talk." Inside, her message was short, almost cold. I know you're angry, but this isn't going to help. I didn't want any of this. You can't do this to me, James. If you really cared about me, you wouldn't be making everything worse. Please, let's fix this. I laughed bitterly as I read her words. Fix this? After everything she'd done, she still had the audacity to try to play the victim? She thought I was going to just back down, that I'd listen to her plea. But she didn't know who she was dealing with. I wrote my response in a heartbeat. You're right. I should have cared more, but I didn't. And now, neither do you. I hit send. That night, I sat in the dark, watching the flickering light of my laptop screen. The silence in the room was heavy, almost unbearable. But it was then that I realized something. The anger that had fueled me for so long, It was starting to die down. The heat was dissipating, and in its place, a cold, calculating resolve was settling in. I wasn't fighting her for revenge anymore. I was fighting her for control, for power. The next day I was back at her apartment. It was time to finish what I had started. No more games, no more pretending, no more waiting for her to make a move. I didn't care if she was there or not. This time, it was my turn. I walked through the door as if I owned the place, my steps echoing against the walls. The flowers were still there, the same bouquet from Brian. And in that moment, I understood everything. I had no idea how far she'd gone, how deep the betrayal ran, but I knew one thing. This was not just about the money anymore. She appeared in the doorway. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with fear. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. I could see it in her face. She knew exactly what was coming. And then it hit me. It wasn't just about winning. It wasn't about getting back at her. It was about making her feel what I had felt for the last few months. The loneliness, the isolation, the betrayal. I stepped forward. "You wanted to hurt me?" I said, my voice low and cold. "You wanted to take it all away from me? Well, here's your chance to see what it feels like." She flinched, but I didn't stop. "I'll make sure you never forget this." I stood there, watching as the weight of my words sank in. The tension in the air was so thick I could almost taste it. Her eyes flickered with a mix of fear and something else. Guilt, maybe. But there was no apology. No regret. Just defiance. "You think you can intimidate me?" She finally spoke, her voice shaky but her gaze unwavering. "You think that by throwing all this in my face you're going to make me feel bad? You can't hurt me, James." I smiled bitterly, stepping closer. "That's where you're wrong, Emily. Because the truth is, I don't want to hurt you. Dot, I want you to feel exactly what I've felt every day since you decided to tear us apart." She looked away, her lips trembling. You don't know what you're talking about. I never meant for any of this to happen." "Really?" I asked, my voice colder than it had ever been. "Because you seemed pretty damn sure of yourself when you emptied the account, when you thought you'd gotten away with everything." The room grew even quieter. The clock ticking on the wall felt like an eternity. Her eyes met mine then, finally, but there was no fight left in them, only a weary sadness. "I never thought you'd fight back, James. You always let me do whatever I wanted. But this is different. You're changing. Isn't that the point?" I asked, my voice dark and unyielding. "I had to change. I had to stop letting you walk all over me, stop letting you get away with this. I'm not that man anymore, Emily." Her voice cracked, and for a brief moment I hesitated. The question lingered in the air. It was a simple question, one I should have asked myself long ago, but I knew the answer now. "I cared once," I said, my voice low, "but not anymore." Up on the days that followed were a blur. Each moment dragged on longer than the last. But I couldn't stop now. I had already taken it this far. I couldn't back down. I went back to the lawyer, my mind made up. "It's done," I said, sitting across from him, my hands clenched into fists on the desk. "I want her to lose everything, all of it. I want to destroy her the way she tried to destroy me." The lawyer raised an eyebrow, but didn't say anything. Instead, he passed me a set of papers. "You'll need to sign these," he said. "But once you do, this is it. There's no going back." I didn't hesitate. I signed without a second thought. It wasn't until the final hearing that I truly understood the weight of what I'd done. The courtroom was quiet, save for the occasional rustle of papers. Emily was sitting across from me, her lawyer beside her. But this time, she didn't look like the woman I once knew. There was no arrogance in her posture, no sense of superiority. She looked small, broken, and yet I couldn't bring myself to feel sorry for her. The judge called the proceedings to order, and for the next hour, everything unfolded like a bad dream. The lawyer's arguments, the evidence presented. Everything worked in my favor. I watched as Emily's defenses crumbled, as she realized there was no escape from what she had done. Her lawyer tried to interject, but it was clear. There was no way out. The case was too strong. The truth was undeniable. The verdict came down like a hammer, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt a sense of relief. Of Justice Eve had been served. The moment I stepped out of the courtroom, I felt lighter. But there was still a hollow feeling inside me. A void that hadn't been filled by victory. In the days that followed, the media picked up the story. The once innocent affair had turned into a public spectacle.